George, welcome to the Builder Sessions.
Thanks for having me.
It's really exciting to have you here. Okay, so before we get into this, we got to introduce the whole table here. So if you're not watching this on video, as I'm talking, isn't that funny what I just did there? It's like if you're not watching this on video, and I looked at the camera, I'm talking to the people who can't see as I look into the camera.
Yeah, well, I mean...
No, this is all staying in.
Oh, okay.
You're like, actually cut me out of this. For those of our listeners who aren't watching the video right now.
Those are our listeners who are not viewers.
That too.
Right.
All the above.
Fair enough.
Hearing impaired. We're equal
I'm done
opportunity.
talking for the rest of
No, you're not. This is good. We have quite a few awesome people at this table, not including myself. So we'll start here.
Eric Tessmer.
Bare Knuckle Binder.
Knuckle Binder.
Came up all the way from Texas, and we're sitting in Lethbridge, Alberta.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was like 2,000 miles from home. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but
Doesn't matter.
3,200.
There it is. And we have Mr. Wayne Dick.
Yeah, here Dick Industries is my social media across all platforms, and excited to be here. Actually, this being a local, I consider George the Jay Leno of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
I explained that to someone this morning. And I've actually never been to this facility, so I was super stoked to be invited.
This place is amazing.
And so we're sitting here in a museum, which we'll talk about, and you'll see video and photos of. You probably already have, but you'll see it on our social media. But George, Mr. Kirkham, thank you so much for taking time. That's my dad. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I've been wanting to interview you about your story. I want to hear your story and how you got to where you are. Looking around again for the audio listeners, we are at George's personal international truck museum, and it's a sight to behold. So
There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff. About 60 trucks, 630 pictures on the walls, big pictures. I don't know how many signs. A lot of signs. We just hung up a bunch more. So it's and this is it's surprising for me. This is the first time I've actually been interviewed by people on video. This is pretty cool, and hopefully don't oversell my position too much. And first time from somebody I'll come all the way from Texas. I mean, I've had people from Colorado here, but
honestly, I told him earlier I felt like I might have possibly gotten in a car wreck a few hours ago, and I'm in heaven now. So.
Oh man! So George, for those of our listeners who are unfamiliar with yourself and the Kirkham collection, and just tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get here?
Well, my father was a zone manager for International Motor Truck for 39 and a half years. I've been accused of trying to sell scouts at age 5. International has made me, fed me, educated me, what little education I got. Today we run a business just a block away from here that's the largest rental fleet in southern Alberta. Put up a new shop here, 43,555 square feet. Built that in 10 months, 24 days. Local international dealer, only one location. So I have old trucks at night and new trucks and trailers during the day, and still having fun. I mean, I don't consider any of these a job. This place here takes a lot of work to keep it clean and keep trucks running. And the last 2 weeks I've been in here charging batteries, so you're 4 battery charges going on all the time, and it takes a lot of work. It's not a lazy man's sport, even just to have them sit here. And we always want it clean. My wife's very meticulous about trying to keep it clean all the time, and we do it pretty much as a family. Any of the stuff we do here is Shelby's involved, and Pam will certainly come out and help out. And my wife I finally brought her a floor washer for her birthday here a few years ago, once we put the new side on here. But she was washing 12,000 square feet with a mop for many years. So she was very happy with me.
I think that's called a keeper.
Yeah.
So she's an old farm gal, so she, it's not just me. I have Jerry that works for us, spends quite a bit of time here. Old Bob keeps the stuff running, and Bobby's on a cruise right now, heading towards Mexico. So it's not just me. It's I've had help doing some of the stuff. I have enablers. Now I don't know if everybody knows what an enabler is. It's somebody that brings you stuff that you didn't know you needed.
I have a lot of
Facebook
enablers
Marketplace
myself.
for me.
Yeah.
And
There's a few of them sitting at this table, actually, for me.
So, whether it be a fire extinguisher from a fellow that, an international guy had a lot of international on his farm. He just passed away, but a couple months before that, he had just brought me a beautiful brass international branded fire extinguisher.
Nice.
So, a little polished and cleaned up, and it's on display in the case over there. International fridge sign, fridge and freezer sign showed up one day when we were doing one of our open houses. There's just, I don't know, a lot of stuff that shows up here because somebody thought I needed it. I didn't go buy it. They just donate it. Just here, it's yours. Do whatever you want with it. So, I've had the odd vehicle show up like that in the middle of the night too, but mostly it's trinkets. And
How come that doesn't happen to me, George?
well, you don't have a storage yard to put all the
Oh,
junk.
fair enough.
So,
I don't have a storage yard, and someone gave me a truck last week, so
Fair enough.
So, there's lots of neat stuff here. It's just a cool place to hang out. The other thing that always surprised me about this place is that, we've done funerals in here. We've had different
way.
things that have gone on. Yeah, my contractor buddy, he passed away.
people are
so-
dying to get in here.
Yes, exactly. And we had a very good friend that had died of cancer. A staff member's wife had passed away. So we just did 50th anniversary in here a couple of weeks ago. We've had engagements in here. Bob's granddaughter got engaged here. And lots of different stuff going on, things with the college and high schools and rap students. A lot of different things go on in here because people just want to come see it and have a neat place to hang out where you can come in here, walk around, go talk to somebody, and then come back and have another conversation with them for, like my banker was here, the head of the bank for Alberta was here Thursday. And I said, we've done stuff in here for the bank before, had a meet and greet session. He said, wow, can we do that again? I said, yeah, anytime you want. And we never charge anybody. I don't want to be charging people because then the rules change. I like the rules to be on my grounds, not somebody else's, because it's we can do it when we have time, not somebody else's time. So, but everybody's always very appreciative. And the people say, well, we can't touch anything. If you don't get your ass in a truck, I will put you in the truck. So you need to close the door, get in the truck, grab the steering wheel, close the door, and pretend you're going to Texas. Especially some of these older trucks just weren't that big inside. And as we get older, sometimes we get bigger. And you feel how uncomfortable they are to drive. And guys spend their life in these things.
Yeah.
The old Comfort Vision cab was not very comfortable because it was just a tighter cab. So people need to experience the whole thing. Looking at a truck from the ground is one thing.
Yeah.
Getting in it and sitting behind the steering wheel of the big yellow truck over here with a Rolls-Royce diesel in it is another whole experience. Or getting in the Pacific, another whole experience. You're up so high.
Yeah.
The line of sight is terrible compared to a modern day truck. You want to have an experience. And, some guys say, well, I'm not going to bring my wife and kids in here. Excuse me? The kids are always welcome. Just
Gotta get the kids in here.
lay off the horns. And your wives will a lot of times have more fun in here than the guys will.
Yeah.
It's just cool. It's just it's an amazing place. Everybody's always comfortable and happy in here. Never see unhappy people here.
When you talk about the driver experience, right? When I first came here, of course, I don't know the rules, so I'm wandering around as if, all right, hands off, peek in. But the one truck that caught my attention that I cannot wait to go hop in now is the one back here, the gravel truck without a cab. Because I had a toy like that when I was a kid. And when I looked in that and I saw, the dump levers right behind, where there is no cab, just behind the bulkhead, I'll call it, of the back of the truck. I was like, what an experience to be driving that thing, hauling giant boulders, and you have this huge iron, visor over top.
It makes you kind of think that OSHA might have been short for oh shit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Did you
where it
realize
started.
where that truck used to work?
No.
Boy, you didn't read all the signs. It's been on
He's
the
a
front.
slow reader.
It's been on the front page of one of the most prestigious collector truck magazines out there, the Wheels of
Really?
Times, built by Ron Carey in Calgary. Good friend that passed away here 4 years ago now in a car accident in England. But that truck was a Boulder Dam construction truck that Boulder Dam out by Las Vegas, and International had 5 times as many trucks as any other brand, twice as many as them all put together. They hauled the first load of rock out of the bottom of that place and through the tunnels, and they hauled the last load.
Really?
Didn't they do an ad campaign about that?
Well, they actually did a movie, and so if you see a moving picture of the Boulder Dam project, it is an International movie.
Okay.
It was the only one that did it.
Really?
Yeah, it was the only one that had taken the time to do a movie. Now, my buddy in Wisconsin, the farmer that has the largest private collection of International movies, took that movie, redigitized it, and did his own movie of it. So that thing is world famous. Whatever.
That's awesome.
And
Wow.
Farmington Implements is the name of his company that does the movies. That was his grandfather's dealership name back in the 50s. He is passionate about International movies and does a hell of a job promoting them. And 5 years he worked on the Boulder Dam project. So redigitizing the old one, making the new one. And so he come up here, and he brought that 549 engine that I showed you.
BR549.
Yeah.
In case anybody doesn't know, that's where they got the phone number for Hee Haw. Is the
right?
International Broad Ring 549. Because the guy's phone number on Hee Haw was BR549.
I never knew that. That's another trivia.
Holy smokes. See, this is
so-
what I'm talking about. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Hey, another thing I just want to interject real quick when we're talking about the international movies is that when, even back to the McCormick Reaper, McCormick, from what I've read, I wasn't there, but in like the 1860s or whatever it was, McCormick, their biggest strength other than having a good product was their marketing. And I feel like you can look back on International through the 20th century and their marketing department. They had their own film studio that they were making these movies. Like if you look at the 30s and the 40s and 50s, like they make these reels that they would play about their tractors and trucks and stuff. It's really fascinating.
They did some amazing photography. Had the largest private movie studio in the world.
Yeah.
They were the first ones to use a movie as an advertising agent in 1911. It was called Back to the Farm. The first one. They were first ones to have audio on a movie in 1925, I think it was. There was a lot of movies done over the years. Today it's almost non-existent, but up until the demise of the company, when it started to break up in 85, they did a few after that on the straight truck side, but they had done a lot of movies, and they had a place out by Chicago. There was a farm that they did a lot of their ag stuff there too, but some truck stuff. They were very strong on the brand was and they'd take these things out to do a pancake breakfast at a dealership or whatever, and it would be playing a movie in the background, and it was
Have some gal dressed up as Irma Harding.
yeah, some very neat stuff. But anyways, the Boulder Dam story is really cool. And so he's got one of the old trucks coming out of in black and white, coming out of the tunnels, and he's got me coming off a dirt pile over here in the truck in color, and then a survivor is found, and they meet together and go off. And first time I saw that, what the. craziness.
Expletive deleted.
And how's this guy figure this stuff out? I mean, he does a fantastic job. Just a nice guy. Craig is a great asset to the collector business. So,
Where can we find that to watch?
Seriously.
well,
I have so many
there
questions.
is the odd copy laying around here, and we do have them for sale at oldinternationaltrucks.com.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Go there. oldinternationaltrucks.com.
If you're not there already, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you're driving around or something, I'm ashamed that you haven't pulled over.
He's
already.
done 2 truck ones, 2 truck DVDs. Also an interview with Ted Ornis. I got to interview Ted on audio one year. He went in the next year and did him on videotape.
Cool.
I made an hour-long videotape of him. He had him on video for 3 hours.
So who's Ted?
Ted Ornis. Ted Ornis
Help
was
design scout.
head of design at International from 1950 on to 1980. Was credited for doing the first paper to pencil drawings of the Scout at his kitchen table, which I have a picture of him standing in his living room with a kitchen table in the background on the south wall here.
I'm
So
surprised you don't have the kitchen table in here.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm too actually.
it was in Fort Wayne, and I'm not sure what the family did with it. So,
So I want to go back for a bit
Yeah.
because we could, like, this is obviously incredible, but I want to know how you caught the bug. Like, what was little
born
George
into
running
it.
around? You were obviously born into it. Was it the fact that you were born into it that you have such a passion to preserve that history, or what was the?
well, I could tell you a couple stories.
Please do.
I had a dealer ops guy one day accuse me of not being passionate or not being loyal to the brand. After giving a tour through here, asked him the question, and through the dealership, and after I got done yelling at him, thought I was okay. Thought I was still passionate, but I don't know. I mean, I was brought up with International. We had travel alls as kids. I loved being around the dealerships when I was out with my dad visiting a dealership. In Cranbrook, we had East Kootenay Equipment, which was downtown, and to go in there. And I remember one day there was a brand new ambulance in there for the city of Cranbrook, and we're playing with the siren and stuff. And it just, I've always liked machinery. I've collected paper back at the time. As a kid, I had my own office underneath the stairs, and I was
There it is.
playing, running a business, which I'm still playing, running a business today, some years later. But my first truck was a 65 International D1000, little 6-cylinder independent with no options. So the option was blue, I think, on it. That was the only option. And, kept that thing running, painted it in high school. I just liked playing with mechanical stuff, pulling lawnmowers apart, doing anything that would run. I built a lot of scale models as a kid. Lots of International trucks, scale models, plastic models, lots of cars, whatever as well too. And just as it evolved, I went and I was selling cars at the time, and went to apply for a job as a salesman for the local dealer here. And I guess I was asked to come apply for a job because been selling cars for a year and a half and wrecked a couple of cars, and maybe wasn't the best salesman out there. So I did talk to him, and I decided, no, I better stay working with the guys I was at. As soon as I'd done that, I knew that was a mistake. I had made the mistake of a lifetime. I passed up an opportunity, so I thought, well, geez, what happens about the knothead? Maybe he won't last. Well, sure enough, 3 months later, he's out of a job, and they come looking again, and you got it. I'm on the job. So got a job selling trucks, and I started July 1st of '78, which is a holiday in Canada, July 1st, and we worked
Victoria
that
Day?
day.
It's 4th of July.
4th of July.
for
It's like
Canada.
your 4th of July.
But it's called
Canada Day.
Canada Day.
Canada Day.
yeah.
What's isn't it Victoria Day? Is that
Yeah, that's February. Or no, May.
May.
That's coming up.
May long.
So and you know, business-wise, I was I had died and gone to heaven. I never driven anything bigger than a 1-ton, but you know, a lot of the stuff that being around Dad and listening to him and learning how to drive on a Travelall and getting my license in a Travelall. There's a red Coke truck over here that I can remember when those trucks were sold to the city of Lethbridge, and he had to find those trucks for him because they thought they were going to order them for the city, but the city wanted them right away, so he had to get on the phone, talk to all his dealers, and scrounge up 5 light-duty trucks for him. I remember that, sitting at his desk at home doing that, and today I own that truck, so
Wow.
restored it and made it a Coke truck. You know, there's just data books. I have a large selection of data books. Some I saved, some Dad saved for me, and I, unfortunately let those go by. But today I've replaced a lot of those things with paper. I have a large paper collection at home and here as well. Photographs, I've still buy photographs of old international stuff. I've always liked the pre-delivery to customer photos. So design photos, assembly line photos in the factory, drive-away photos I really get excited about, dealership photos, and today when a load of new trucks comes in, I'm out taking pictures of it. So the passion hasn't changed, and to me that's kind of a, do you want to be working in a truck dealership? If you're not passionate about when a new load of trucks shows up to our place,
You're in the wrong business.
you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. I've had people say, "Well, I don't get excited about that. They don't work for us anymore." Sorry.
I want to backtrack for just a second. When you were talking about, the different photos and the pre-customer stuff, microfiche.
Yes.
As a kid, we bleed red,
Yep.
right? We were international all the way with our equipment on the farm. But my fascination was going to the dealership and seeing that parts guy bring out the microfiche and it zipping by at Mock Chicken.
Yep.
Yeah.
And boom, he
Mock
brings
Chicken.
up the blow up of that. So I'm wondering, do
Yes.
you have that still access
We
to that?
have. We actually just bought a microfiche reader scanner. We
Awesome.
have quite a bit of microfiche that we've, we have serial number line set tickets on microfiche. We have parts books on the microfiche. Most of the ones we have today are paper. We have a lot of old paper catalogs, but the reader we could use. We have one reader, I think, and then one scanner we have today.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, they're still out there. We still can use them if we have to.
All right,
Because-
I gotta interject now, because in my world, my kind of specialty is international trucks from 40 to 60, from the D series to the B series, and in that range, the microfiche is lost in a fire for the line setting tickets, apparently, of like the L series and a lot of the R series. Do you know where that gap is?
Well, we have got some.
He's like, I got 8 sets of them upstairs.
No, we don't have 8 sets of them. Well, what was lost in the fire, I think, was actually the paper copies that I believe was what got lost. I've never heard of those microfiche that got lost. So, but
I mean, I could be mistaken.
Could have been for sure, but we have got line set tickets back into the 50s, late 50s, 57-ish or so. But Wisconsin University has line set tickets there,
Yeah,
and I'm
the
not sure
Historic
how far they go back. I've been there, done that, got
Yeah.
some from them, and gone through some of their files and whatever. Spent a couple of days there. Our next ATHS show is in Madison.
Yeah.
I will be there
I
again.
grew up
in,
an hour and a half east or west of Madison. Hour and a half east is.
we spent
Lake
a
Michigan.
week there helping the scout guys do the last encyclopedia there as well. So,
Because I have an L series truck, a 52, that I would give my middle nut to have the line setting tick for.
but in Canada, we had the old parts depot in Burlington, Ontario, had filing cabinets after filing cabinets after filing cabinets of line set tickets in numerical sequence. And I don't know where those went. I've been told into the States. I've seen them. I looked at them. I was in open drawers, pulled stuff out, and then all of a sudden they disappeared and they ended up somewhere, I believe, in the States. Now, the other word we've had from International is they are copying all their old line set tickets that they had, paper form, and putting them on
Digital.
making digital copies of it. We've been told, this has been going on for over a year, so where the project is, I don't know, but they say they're getting close to having it done. If that's the case, I mean, we're going to have an abundance of line set tickets available to us. I kind of have a tough time understanding International's theory of that, because they're not historically, like Mac has all their line set tickets from day one, Pacific has all their
historically active.
Active, yeah, exactly. So, but if it happens, we are going to have a lot more line sets available to play with. So
those like build sheets?
Yeah,
build
that's
sheets,
build
Yeah.
sheets.
Yeah,
Okay.
build
Like
sheets.
the Marty report for Ford guys, you know.
Yeah. So all the
Yeah.
option codes,
that's cool.
wheelbase,
IH called them line
And then
setting.
based on the specific VIN?
yes,
And
And
just
the,
like,
the chassis number.
oh, that's so
chassis number. So they'd have the engine serial number on them, chassis serial number on them, production date, line sequence number, and serial number, which are not necessarily the same. Like you'd have a serial number in sequence, but what you want to look at is a line sequence. If my truck was built after yours because the serial number is the same. That's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
The line sequence is when they had. So I have a little red fire truck over here that's been little red Pierce fire truck, 75 200 4x4 is 385th from the last one built by line sequence, and 387th or something like that by serial number sequence, I think is how it goes. But close to the end, but as a week away from the end. It was actually built the Monday before the last Monday. So I just got another serial number from a customer, an old dealer bought a fire truck, and it was done the week before.
It makes me think about how they always say never buy a car that was built on a Monday or a Friday.
My brain
Like,
went
how
there
about
too.
a truck built on the second to last Monday of the light line ever built?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So, it's kind of, line sets are just a lot of fun. They can tell you a lot of stuff. Some of them are very poor quality, we find today. We've tried to restore some. We've restored quite a few of them for our collection here, but some of them are just terrible.
Yeah, and you know,
I
with
hardly read them.
like with the S series of the 50s, not the S series of the late 70s, they would have them pasted on the
Visors, yeah.
and
Oh.
so a lot of times those would survive, but on the L series they would have it either pasted inside the cab, which typically they'd survive. Depend if you had a window open for a long time, they'd fade out, but sometimes they'd be on top of the glove compartment, which rots out almost immediately. So
And in the 70s, in the 60s, they would put them on the sun visor a lot of times.
But the
Backside
thing
of
is,
the visor.
those things are so fragile.
Right.
They're made out of like angel
And they're
parts.
not a complete one. They're just the option
Just go.
codes. And, they're very incomplete. They give you the option codes, and that's about it in the description of it. They're part of a line set ticket. Where in the 70s, so 69 to 70, the D lines, put them on the glove box, on the backside of the glove box. So it's surprising where you can find them sometimes.
I've got a 55 R120 with a line setting ticket pasted inside the owner's manual.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Well, and a lot of times they had an envelope that had the operator's manual in it, and the line set ticket would be in that in the 50s and 60s as well. So I've made a copy of those envelopes and have see some of my trucks that have the line set ticket in that copied envelope. Same color, same dimensions and stuff. And just, we run it through we scanned it and got it sized to right. So print them up. Kind of cool. That's the authentic look of a pretty historic thing. If you can get your line set ticket, you can tell what ratio you had, what the gears were to run your speedometer,
Size tires, everything.
size tires, what color it was.
Yeah, the
color
paint code.
was original. Paint code's on there.
My
Lots of neat
56 fire truck was actually painted a GM color because for the CDF's fire colors, Swift red.
Oh wow.
Swift red,
Yeah.
Daphne blue.
Like today we paint, I think it's 129 whites. So it's, it's crazy things that go on today. There's a lot of different colors. We always had custom colors, CT 399 colors. So there's lots of stuff you can do with it, color-wise.
Now here's a nerd question, coming from a reputable nerd. But when you're painting trucks, restoring these trucks, is there a certain enamel or hardener you use?
No, we've done some in just enamel. We've done some in urethanes. The paints have all changed today. So nothing's the same as what it used to be.
Right.
We've done color coat, clear coat on a couple of them. Like Shelby's truck was the first one we did, the blue and white one, B100 in color coat, clear coat. You put enough clear on there, you can hide a lot of sins in the clear coat. So that was an educational experience for us, and I spent 1 weekend sanding and polishing, and it came out pretty good.
Is that your truck back here on the deck of the other one? Yeah, I was.
You're not allowed to drive it, I
That
see.
thing's sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, she'll drive it. She pulled that thing in there, and at age 15, age 16, she drove it out the back door for the first time. I don't know how to drive a standard. I gave a shit. Get in the truck and drive it out the back door. So what she did is you've got to drive it out the door the first time. So we actually kept track of our hours. First time we've ever done it, the last time we've ever done, kept track of our hours. I had 1,100 hours in there. And she had about over 400 hours in it. So
Awesome.
I've got her to be a reasonably skilled craftsman, and she hasn't done too much work since then, but she's, helped out a little bit here and there and stuff.
She
There's
seems like she's
pictures-
busy.
Well, she is busy, but she's, she does all the, like all the marketing, all the stuff, all this, this stuff, and, the list that goes on and on. But in the back of that golden anniversary, there is a picture of her at age 9 working on the tailgate, taking that tailgate apart. So
That has to be a limited
Yeah.
run. I've never seen
Didn't they have
that.
one per dealership?
no, how many did you want? They'd build them.
It sounds like international.
Well, how many did you want? There was no. I've read, everybody. There's only 500 of them. Buddy, what do you know? You don't know. I've heard some numbers that were much, much, much higher, especially the U.S.
Okay.
Everybody had a dealership every 10 miles. So actually, one of the fellows that's done some paper or pencil drawings for me actually had one as a demo here. He was a zone manager in 57. Ted Vulnerables or whatever his name was, I forget. Anyways, a local guy that was a zone manager here in town had a golden white anniversary. So that truck was designed by Ted Ornis.
Nice.
Ted Ornis got to design that thing. The first truck he got to design top to bottom, from an A100 to an A180.
So he kind of took over where Raymond Loewy left off.
Yeah, because his first job with International was to take the L model and make it into an R model. That was his first task by rights at International. When he was on his own at that time, and had done some stuff for International, kind of freelance. But the A model was he wanted something special for 50 years of building trucks. So he's told me the story. I kept asking him questions about it. So he kept answering the questions, was kind of neat. He wanted gold paint. He wanted metallic paint for 1957 because it was 50-year anniversary of building trucks. So he wanted something cool. So the problem was the guy that they bought paint from, International bought paint from, was one of the board of directors. And he didn't do metallic paint. And I says, "Oh, Ted, how the hell did you survive that one?" He says, "Well, a lot of times I'd go back to my office and I'd think about presenting it a different way, or how could I do this, or how could I show this somehow." And he says, "I'd usually get what I wanted to have done." Sometime it took a little while. So I says, "Well, where did you get the tail lights for those trucks?" I don't know, some guy from South Bend, Indiana, I thought. I says, do you know those are 53 or 54 Buick taillights? No, I didn't know that. So, okay.
The guy who designed it doesn't know.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know.
Well, he was an old man by this time.
Yeah,
He was
well, it's
87 years old or 88 years old. But he just, he wanted a styled box. So it's really just a step-side box with tin fenders held on with number 6 machine screws. And the tailgate is just a normal tailgate with a skinned, a stamped cover over it, and with retractors in the back on it that hold the cables out, which is the same retractor is used in a travel.
So underneath that skin on the tailgate, what does it say? International? Like
Yes.
Really?
Yes,
No
it
way.
is the box is all the panels on the sides, the front, the back of the box are a normal step-side box. And just with, fenders that are held on there with number 6 machine screws along the top underneath the stainless steel trim.
You're telling me that a metal worker worth of salt could duplicate one of those
Okay,
with like
yeah.
with a step-side bed?
Yes,
As a-
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what I mean. If you got a
got to build a
step-side
pretty
bed
good sized
starting-
panel there. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in metalworking, weekends where the guys built panels and they build them in sections and weld them together. You absolutely could do that. Yeah. So the tailgate, especially, is just one. It's actually, it's a pretty simple piece of tin.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you
Just
put
got
your
that-
indentation for the
that
international
dip,
in
yeah.
there. Yeah. So
I like the concave section where
The
the
taillights.
taillights sit in. It almost looks like your orange and white travel all taillight just inside out there, right?
Right.
The way they kind of
But he
come out
was
and down.
was pretty happy with his creation there, and that cab, which was 1957 was the first year of that cab,
Yep.
and it lasted till
68, right?
it lasted till they changed the floor. They brought they shortened the side of the cab up a little bit in 61, but that cab lasted till 1978 on Lodestars.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh wow.
But in the light line that went to 68, right?
Yes.
And they changed it to 69 to the D
To the
series.
D series, you bet. So
Yeah.
it was.
I forget about the Lodestars all the time.
Lodestars, you bet. Well, that's why my first my first new truck I ever sold was that blue Lodestar up in the wall there in that grill.
Oh wow.
Oh, yeah.
1978, August 1978. So there's another whole story behind that truck, but we won't get into that today.
Holy smokes.
What other wild questions you got?
Well, it's so much to take in. And we're sitting here in the museum, and if you're watching on video, you see behind us, like there's so many vehicles. Are there any of these, George, that have a real special place in your heart, or is there? I mean, you can't. It's like children at this point, probably
Well,
for you.
for sure. I mean, it's usually the last one I did. Because all the pain and the Rebecca sets and the Tylenol, is still wearing off.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the coolest ones I think I have is the big yellow one back here in RDF 230, which was built in Hamilton, Ontario, not Chatham, Hamilton, Ontario, with a Rolls-Royce diesel in it.
Yeah.
So, there was a firm, International sold a fair amount of Rolls-Royce diesels, 59 to 63, and they were all junk. I mean, they were just terrible, terrible engines. And that one there has survived, or maybe it was rebuilt because they had ceramic liners in them, and things that just were never going
Really?
to work.
Ceramic
It's just
Why would they pick ceramics?
I have no English, So my Englishman that works in here, Bobby, he says, George, you got to try and get that thing running. We got to try. And then my historian buddy, Harry Redding, was the head of the Dodge Brothers Club. He says, George, you've got to try. You've got to try. I said, no, that thing's coming out. I'm going to put a 220 or 250 Cummins in it and make a truck out of it. So after listening to these guys hounding me for months, we finally decided we're going to do it, get the truck stripped off. It had a big deck on it and hadn't run for 10 years. And I had the phone number for that guy for 10 years in my pocket. And I never called him. Then one day he phoned me and wanted to trade it off on a grain trailer. He never did buy a grain trailer, but we did buy the truck off him. But I had that thing in my note in my wallet for 10 years.
Wow.
So and that's called restraint.
Yeah.
Just if anybody has any
Yeah, exactly.
questions. So Bobby come to me, I says, okay, you got 3 days. You get that truck running in 3 days, or it's coming out of there. Okay, yep, no problem. So fresh oil, fresh water, filters, change, fuel, and all the other good stuff, batteries. Noon the next day, he comes, come on out, bring your camera, point it at the exhaust. So he hops in the truck, hits the starter button, and the damn thing starts. And, puffed a little bit of smoke. And now this thing hadn't run for at least 10 years. And it ran like a charm. We never did anything to the engine other than a little bit of throttle linkage and painted it. And put filters on it. And the thing is, still, you could fire that thing up and it'll clean out within a couple of seconds. It's amazing. So it obviously got rebuilt, and because they all got rebuilt. So that one's pretty cool. Probably my other one is my dad's Travelall, my dad's last company Travelall, the orange and white one, 75, which he sold to the dealer in Milk River after he was done with it, and to Paul Madge. And Paul was a good friend of my dad's, and I wanted to buy it off him. Kept asking, I want to buy that Travelall. I want to buy the Travelall. Yeah. So when it come to the buying the Travelall, he wouldn't talk to me. He would just talk to Shelby. Shelby had to do the deal with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Paul Dad always used to say, you bought something from Paul, you knew you bought something from Paul. So I had to pay him $5,000 for this thing in the rough. And I says, Paul, you're screwing me. No, you're getting a deal, I said, Paul, this is more money than you paid Dad for it in 40 years previous.
Right.
And nope, you're getting a deal.
A bad deal.
Yeah.
But it's a deal.
So then we get it loaded up in the trailer. We stop at his house. Then he comes out with the original invoices from the company to the Calgary branch to employee traveler's vehicle. And then on that paperwork was Dad's handwriting.
Oh, wow.
Of all the discounts that Paul got for the truck, mileage discount, not building light duty anymore, a list of stuff. And Paul paid $5,036 or something like that for it in '76. And here I am 40 years later paying $5,000 for it in the rough, which we spent another $20,000 on it afterwards, painted it, and it had been repainted gray.
But you got all that stuff with your dad's handwriting and...
Well, priceless stuff. Cool. So I said to Paul, see, I told you, you're screwing me. So he said, take it off the trailer. I said, no, we'll see you. Goodbye. So we're down the road, and that one's pretty special. I mean, the year before that, Dad had a yellow Travelall, and I took my driver's license in that. Mm-hmm. From the building was the old district office that my dad started his career in with International across from the old branch on Stafford Drive. So, kind of a historic. Tommy Clark was up here doing a talk for my International collectors 5-6 years ago. And I went and reenacted the driver's examination for him, pulled him up to the old district offices. So here we are, driving a orange and white Travelall. And he says, George, you're a little, but I just try to explain to you why I am, how I am, whatever I am. So it's all good.
Well, it sounds to me like you got $36 off.
Yeah, a hell of a deal. It's a discount, and a bunch of rust and whatever. But
character.
Character. Yeah, patina.
Jeez,
it's worth lots of money.
There was the bones were still pretty good, but it hadn't run for years. So it was, we had our work cut out for us to get her back to the shape it's in.
304?
No, 392, full load.
Okay.
I mean, pretty much a full load towing package, bucket seats, full custom interior, custom exterior, air conditioning, power steering, power brakes. And it was a real deal. So it was, and have the line set ticket for it. And it was, there wasn't too many options that didn't have. Dana 60 rear end in it.
Wow.
Normally we would have had a Dana 44.
Right.
But with the tone package, you got the...
You got the beef.
Yeah. So.
Do they do that anymore? You get a towing package, isn't it now just like a hitch and a plug?
Well, they definitely put it on there and charge you for it, but I
they're not
feel
gonna
like
put
it's
a
charge you like it's an axle.
But they're not going to put a whole new axle under something anymore.
No.
while I got you here, both of you in this room, when I was talking to George, I don't know when this was last time. Oh no, at the college there when we were at Skills. I was telling George about you, Eric, and talked to him. I tried my best.
Lies.
It's all lies. It's all BS. I tried my best to kind of share the story about the Coleman.
Okay.
And well, I want to talk about that. How you know,
I
like-
was going to mention that I saw a distinct lack of 4x4s.
Well, you know, I had a 75 I sold, 4x4.
But I guess
But-
it's leading into another question, is that in this region,
There wasn't very many
Right.
4x4s, for sure.
and actually where I live in Texas, they really didn't sell that many.
Yeah.
But up around this area and in the panhandle of Texas is where you find more of like the 9-foot beds. Wherever anybody's farming like grain or cotton, it's typically where you'd find them. But
so the story of the Coleman.
the story of the Coleman is,
And you've said the story on this podcast
yes.
before.
And
For George's sake.
I'll say it real quick.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and especially because, you know, if somebody's listening or viewing this and they don't know who I am or what I do, in late 2020, I followed a lead off of a Facebook international group, which I don't typically like to be on Facebook, these groups, because, you know,
Everyone's an expert.
everyone's
and
an
you're wrong,
expert,
and-
you know, a bunch of jackamos talking about whatever. And anyway, somebody posted something, and they're like, a couple pictures of internationals, and they're like, clearing out this yard in Northern California. If anyone wants looking for a project. And my buddy Jeff Fowler, he's basically the sponge of all the information about the 140, 160 4x4 series trucks. He sent me a picture of an S160. He said, I know you're looking for one of these trucks. I'm actually looking for a green S140 4x4 that was listed on eBay, I think in 2017. And we talked about that on the podcast earlier. Anyway, I was like, at this point, I was like, I need another truck. Like, I need a hole in my head. And so, of course, I was on the phone with the guy by the end of the day. And
Of course.
by the end of the month, I drove all the way up there, it's about a 30-hour drive. And I went up there, made a deal on the truck. And, you know, with the caveat, I had 6 months to get it out of there because I was going to drive it home.
Oh, wow.
And before I left, the guys were like, hey, are you interested in anything else? I was like, well, if you got any 4x4 internationals from the 50s, I am. And they're like, well, we think there's one down in the woods back behind the house. I was like, that sounds like the story I want, you know. So we went down there, and I remember walking up on it, and it was way away from everything. And I could tell it was an L or an R series truck, early R, because it had the double rear windows and the small side windows. The thing was sitting on the ground, no wheels, no hood, no motor, no transmission. But walking up on it, I couldn't believe my eyes, and it was like a Coleman axle in the front, which is, if you know what a Coleman axle, it's a big domed thing. So it's, I guess, the story of this truck, though, like I ended up getting the S160 home, and then I went back for the Coleman, and I got everything harvested off of it. I got the 2 axles in the transfer case, took them home, rebuilt them all, and then out of all my parts piles, I pulled out a motor, I pulled out a transmission, and I went up there, built it in 9 days, and drove it home.
No way.
2,500 miles. And,
That's incredible.
And my wife flew up and rode back with me.
You can say it, George. It's fine.
My wife flew up and rode back with me, and we went down. We kind of retraced the route that I took with the S160, because I went down Highway 50, which is America's loneliest highway in Nevada, and we got off the road, and we went through old Forest Service roads and climbed up mountains and saw like cave paintings and all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, this Coleman is, when I was fixing up the axles, I sandblasted it down to bare metal. There's casting flaws that were corrected by hand. It's clearly a prototype. It's not, and if it's not the only one ever built, it was probably the first, because a production axle would not have this type of corrections on it. It wouldn't be feasible to make them consistently like that. And it was clearly another axle, and they scraped off the part numbers and stamped in new part numbers.
No way.
And
Isn't that cool?
the thing about a Coleman conversion is that they would use modular parts or proprietary. So a GM Coleman axle for conversion would be cast to accept a rear differential out of a GM axle, and they just flip it around. And you know, the thing about Coleman axles too, if you've never seen one, they actually have solid axle shafts, and the end of the axle, the wheel end, is basically like a big gyroscope. So the whole thing just spins around the end of the axle shaft. So this thing is for an RA10 International rear axle. Differential just pops right in there. So it's a mystery truck for sure, and that's why I'm saying that if I could find a line setting ticket, if it had any information alluding to the fact that it was going to Coleman or they were going to put a Coleman axle on it, these are the things I lie awake at night and think about. And it's got on the kick panel on the serial plate, it had an SD 220, and they stamped over it to get a 240. And I've never seen on any international serial number plate, I've never seen that before. And so I think that they knew that it was going to have this, and so they wanted a little more snort. But I mean, that's all a lot of supposition on my part. But the one thing, when we talked about this on the first podcast, was that, all right, so on a Coleman axle, the way that you set, there's two swivel bearings that the whole thing just swivels on. That's how you steer it. And there's a wedge that comes up underneath them, and you pound it in with a punch to get your preload setting. And then there's a bolt that runs in, and you put it in, and you tighten a lock nut on it. And this bolt is about, I'd say, 3 inches long, at least on my axle, because it's a smaller one. It's about 3 inches long, and like the last, I don't know what that is in the metric system. But
Doesn't matter.
Let's
It's
use
fine.
inches.
all right, so
Keep it simple.
So about about the last quarter of an inch or 3/4 of an inch is the threads are stripped off, and it's just a dowel basically. It's just a rod, and that rod pushes against this wedge against the square edge of the wedge, and that's how you set your preload. And so this thing has these solid axle shafts, which are international axle shafts. They have international stampings and part numbers. The only difference is they have a collar on them for a seal, so that the diff's not pumping oil. One of those bolts that International wouldn't have used for anything else has international. It's an International bolt.
No way.
So I think International was involved. I think my best guess is that this truck was when they're trying to figure out post World War II, early 50s, how to get into the light line 4-wheel drive market. So
That's cool.
What do you think, George? You have any info on that stuff?
I don't. I'm pretty naive to all that stuff. I've got one fellow out here, Fort McLeod or whatever, has got an R140 or 160, I think. It was a Shell oil truck with a line set ticket and stuff. But other than that, I'm pretty naive.
4x4 kind.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Well, you're a historian at this point, right? It's not even, it's I'm just thinking about your story and what you've shared so far, and how you're born into it. You had your office in the dealership under the stairs, and then now it seems like
They've got you a bigger office now.
yeah,
Right?
They do have.
I hope so. But it seems like you're working to preserve your upbringing, your whole past, and the brand that you're so.
My life has been international. I did have a Dodge pickup in high school, but
Did I see a picture of that? Was the fastest yellow truck in town?
no, orange one.
Orange.
It's in the bathroom.
That's where I saw
But
it.
then
Yeah.
after that, I had an S100. We did the flip front end and a Dodge powertrain and air conditioning, power steering, power brakes and stuff. A bit of a terror on the streets. but I sold that, and had to make room for some other stuff, and got busy trying to run a business because we had no money. We started with $4,000. I started with $4,000 of my own money and a MIG welder, and borrowed some more money and had a partner with a few more funds, but we had enough money to go broke. So there's quite a time there that we were all work and no play.
Yeah.
Was
18 hours a day, and
that was started in 1985. Is that?
yes, yeah, exactly. So we started with a little 6,000 square foot shop, which is there's one of these buildings on this side here was a 6,000 square foot shop, and we ran a business out of it for 3 years, and started with 7 employees, and had a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work, and it was the first few months I didn't have enough work to do, so I couldn't work all night, so I'd go stop at my parents' place on the way home and have a discussion with Dad about things. And I remember walking in there and I couldn't turn my neck. I was scared stiff. And so then once you got other things to do, you worked longer hours and you managed to get it working. And then we built the second shop, and now here we are. Years later, we've just built our third shop that we started in, and still giving her. Still, there's lots of challenges today. You can't get enough trucks, and we actually just ordered trucks last week, which is for stock, which we haven't been able to do for a few years. We actually ordered a dozen trucks last week. So she's a different time today in the business. So, but I'm still having fun. Still get up in the morning and get the bastards before they get me. I mean, I got 6 guys across the street that would love to see me out of business. Yeah. And we've had to do things differently. Today we have the largest rental fleet in southern Alberta, trucks and trailers. We do a lot of online parts sales for regular parts, regular truck parts. Sell them all over North America, especially for our little CVs, our new CV model. We have antique guys, 3 guys that are selling antique parts that sell parts literally all over the world. Haven't been to Russia yet, haven't been to China. So those guys keep very busy, and they have a very dedicated customer base. Usually that customer base is 55 plus years old. They have the money, they have an old truck, and they want to restore it. Now, both of these guys, 2 of them for sure, got pretty good mechanical skills, but and Errol has great parts knowledge. He's been a partsman since international partsman since 1977. So wow. He helps out a lot with these guys trying to find stuff, and we've pulled rabbits out of the hat for many guys. So Shelby and I went to Harvester Homecoming in Fort Wayne, and we ran into a couple of the customers down there that the guys had sold stuff to, and I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, that where they put us on a pretty high platter. So, but it's good fun. And so you think you're the only crazy bugger? We found a whole bunch of others, and we found them all over the world.
Well, I walked in here and I knew I wasn't the only one.
Yeah. Exactly. You're like, I'm home.
We've got a guy, one fella in Britain that had a Paystar, like my big red dump truck down there, that had a drill rig on it, and he wanted to build a showpiece. He had the truck since it was new in 1980, and he wanted to dress it up. And we sold that fellow probably $40,000 or $50,000 worth of parts for it. Changed all the wheels out to aluminum, and Errol sold him a pile of stuff for it. And he just, give me that, yeah. So.
Did he send his own boat over to ship it over?
No, I think we send that stuff to one of the ports, like Portland, or not on the East Coast, Baltimore or someplace.
Like in a shipping
container? And in a container, yeah. And left from there. So I think is what happened to it. But it's amazing where we sell stuff to. It's if you look at the maps by their offices, there's 3 maps: Canadian, American, and the world map. And we've been at every province, every state, and 35 or 6 different countries today. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
International built trucks, in Britain and Hungary, Lodestars, we're well over. We just sent a windshield to United Arab Emirates.
Yeah. Man, those guys are really about 4-wheel drive. There's a huge 4-wheel drive museum there.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. They have with like a 10 times size Power Wagon replica.
What's a house?
And
It's
it
a-
Oh,
runs.
yeah. I've
runs.
seen
Yeah,
that.
you can drive it.
No
You can
way.
drive it.
It's
huge.
crazy.
But it's actually, you can live in it.
I'll tell you a guy that he built this truck and he sold it and it got shipped over there. And you should have him on the podcast. Is Charlie Pritchard, Metal by Charlie.
Okay, yeah.
But his a 30s Dodge that he built, like a 4x4, it went over there. So it's in that museum.
That's wild. So that's what I kind of want to, it's been an hour, George. I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface.
We haven't scratched the surface.
No,
We could be here for
We could be here for days.
What?
many, many hours.
with our first podcast, what we went 2.
Yeah, we went like 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
It was just
listening.
me talking to them like,
spewing knowledge. Like it was awesome. But I want to, as we kind of wrap up here, George, can you tell us a little bit about oldinternationaltrucks.com? And then like you talked about it a bit, but like what started that? Were you just like, man, I got all this stuff here, I should sell some of it, or I want to
No.
help people find parts for their
Help people
projects?
find parts for it. We, and I don't know how many years ago that was, Virginia was selling parts for us at the time. And so we're back in the new building, or in the second building. So we're probably back in the late 90s, maybe, sometime in thereabouts, mid 90s. And people were phoning me looking for parts all the time. Where'd you get this and where'd you get that? And so we'd help them and tell them where to go and do what. And I said, well, if they're going to waste my time, I should be trying to make some money at this.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
kidding.
I'm an expensive guy. I have a hobby that needs
Yeah.
whatever.
some call it an addiction, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
exactly.
addictions to support.
So that's what we started doing. We started buying a few parts here and there, rubber parts, headliners, glove boxes, floor mats. Today we've expanded it. There's whole one section of our parts area upstairs in our building that is just restoration parts plus windshields we have downstairs. We sell a lot of windshields because a lot of people have trouble finding a windshield for a 60s pickup or Travelall or a Lodestar.
I have trouble finding a windshield for the early 50s that's not tinted green.
Yeah, well, we have tinted green ones in stock.
In
all the
stock,
time.
right
Yeah,
across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So but those sometimes can be tough to get our hands
Yeah.
on too, because people will build a lot of windshields and then they stop for a while. And,
Yeah.
everybody gobbles them up, and then the price of windshields in the meantime goes way up, and then it comes down once somebody
Which
builds
is why
some
they
more.
stop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it started very slowly, and we kind of walk before we run. And then Errol loves looking up old parts, and was very confident in what he was doing there. And so he wanted to get out of running the parts department and just do that 4 days a week, and which he does today still, 78 years old. And George is 72 or 3 or something like that, age old, and another fellow that's quite a bit younger. And we have a customer base that is very thankful that we can get them stuff. I mean, I've talked to some people as, man, I've been searching for you for 6 months. Oh my God, thank you for finally showing up.
I have a
We've been
story
here all
about that.
along.
I have on the M5H6, the World War II 6x6,
Yeah.
and obviously the 140, 160 has basically the same axle. There's a giant seal. It's called the trunnion oil seal that seals the knuckle. 108 310H. I'm just saying. Not that I've been looking at for 10 years.
That's what kept you up at night. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I finally found a pair of them like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I've been looking for 10 years.
And it's surprising what
George
you
is
do
like,
find.
I got a sleeve of them.
Well, it's we surprised like I don't know how many hours I spent searching for parts for Shelby's truck. We found quite a few new old stock parts. Things like my K11 back here, 1945, 40, early 40s truck, and searching one night for punching parts in part numbers in the computer from this one company we buy from. You got to have the numbered. That's the only way you find it. And about 10 o'clock, I find a new old stock steering wheel for that truck.
I have chills.
right now. Goosebumps.
So,
Add to cart.
you know, send that to me.
How many can I add?
You know, I've been searching part. I mean, that night I was on the thing for probably a good 4 hours, and you know, one of the last things I found was a Newell stock steering wheel. Well, I was somewhat ecstatic.
I'd say so.
You know, you just don't find too many Newell stock steering wheels. Although I have found a few.
But a 40s.
Yeah,
Newell stock,
exactly.
that's-
You know, I did find a Newell stock steering wheel for my Paystar in Australia about 10 years ago. I decided not to use it because I'm going to do a custom cab in that truck. But I still got it for something else sometime down the road.
That's cool.
So it's amazing what we can find. Lots of logos on Shelby's truck. We found Newell stock. And we actually found a fellow from Maine had a Newell stock power brake kit for it.
Wow.
And so I had it advertised in Vintage Truck Magazine. I phoned him up. I said, I'm from Lethbridge. Oh, well, you must be George Kirkham. Yes, I
Is that a good
am.
thing? Yeah.
So
I must be.
I guess he had bought some parts off us for a couple of his projects that he had done and stuff, and I'd bought some other stuff off him after that, some new old stock parts. Got burned up in a fire. That's another whole story.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so it's finding stuff is the hunt. You know,
Yeah.
the hunt for pieces is
Exciting, probably.
well, very exciting. I mean, Shelby's truck. I started buying parts for it a year before I showed her where the truck was. And
cool. Oh, wow.
I was, you know, because I was going to get it done. And we did that truck in 9 months, 9.5 months.
No way.
Every nut, bolt, screw clip. I mean, every nut, bolt.
So cool.
off that
It's,
thing. So,
I think it's worth mentioning that, you know, I have people reach out to me every day on Instagram, sometimes on YouTube, and looking for parts and where me to help them find parts. And it's not that I don't appreciate any of the communication, but people will just send me a question, say, hey, where do you find your parts? Like, how much time do you have? Like, do I have to write out? And it's funny because there's, like he's saying, you can search years for parts
You bet.
and not find them. And then one night, it's typically at night, you'll find it listed somewhere. It'll pop up.
Yep.
You'll find a website you couldn't find before, or it'll pop up on eBay. And it's just like all that time, all those thousands of hours of searching is
when I did my
Worth it.
C30 here, it was a truck that came off my wife's farm. This was, you know, early 1990.
it's at 35 behind the C1 there.
Yes, it's a C30, 35, 1935.
You scoped
But-
out the
but-
property here.
but-
Well, the thing is, I just got to interject, it's got the later version stamped steel doors instead of the
Yes.
wood composite doors.
I've been found out. Yes, it does.
That's a secret George has been holding on to for years.
So, but
No, that's
anyways,
really cool.
That thing had the bearings in that engine came from every four corners of the states, and I found them by talking to people. There wasn't the internet back then. And do you know anybody that might have these other bearings? Well, talk to this guy in Tacoma, or talk to this guy in Pennsylvania, or talk to this guy in Southern California, and I found them. But you talk about time and
Yeah.
energy and phone calls. So
Is that a FLC, or what motor is that?
an HD.
HD.
HD. So another thing with oldinternationaltrucks.com, information. You want to know what color your truck was originally? If you have the paint code, we have all the paint codes on our website, all the paint color charts
Yeah.
for back into the late 35 and 37 C and D models.
Yeah.
So on everything forward. So and the paint page had more hits on it than anything else did the last time
Really?
we checked a few years ago. So a lot of people's looking for paint codes, but there's lots of other neat stories. There's the story of Ted Ornis with about design of the Scout and stuff, and we've got to meet the fellow that brought the Jake brake out to fruition, out to market, which was son of Clessy
Cool.
Cummins, Lyle Cummins, whatever. just some neat stories in there that you can read. And
Of course, at that time was the Jacobs break, right?
right, Jacob's engine brake, yes, which was his brother-in-law's drill truck company in Maine. That's where the name come from. So we have a lot of information on there, a lot of brochures, photos, lots of photos, and we have lots of photos to add to it. We actually
I'm
just
guilty of perusing these photos.
Yes, no,
I've gone through it several
Yeah,
times.
there's a hotbed of clicks from Texas.
Yeah,
It's just
Central Texas. I think this guy's stalking
got
us.
a fireman from Calgary was here with one of his police buddies here a couple of years ago. He brought his son down with him, and I've talked to him before and met him and stuff, and had to get my picture taken with him and whatever. So I said, okay, yeah, no problem. So anyways.
Now I'm going to feel weird getting my picture taken with you.
So he comes
Well, I'll
down,
do it together. Strength in
and
numbers.
I'm giving him the tour. We spent 6 hours in here. And finally at 6 o'clock, where his phone's ringing, his wife said, "Are you coming home for supper?" And he lives in Calgary, so 2 hours away. No, I won't be home for supper. But anyways, I'm giving him
I'm
the
with my new family now.
Yeah.
I'm walking
could
through
sell- you
here
could sell my
telling the
stuff.
story on each one of the trucks.
Uh-huh.
I start the sentence, he's finishing the sentence.
No way.
Oh, you've been on my website.
Yeah.
I mean, it was weird. It was weird. This guy, knew everything that I knew about what's
We
here.
know now he's going to hear this.
Yes, well, hey, there's, people are passionate about, learning more.
Yeah.
And we give them an opportunity. We try and put a lot of stuff on oldinternationaltrucks.com to share, to educate, to make the hobby fun.
I was just gonna say, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just to build on that, is that when I started doing the bare knuckle binder social media presence thing in 2020, and we talked about this earlier, but and I think I talked about it in the first podcast, but honestly, I wanted to show people how to do stuff correctly, because if you go on these Facebook pages, these jabronis are just siliconing plexiglass in a split windshield frame. So my first video was to show how to correctly rebuild one of these things. And it started out just trying to keep people from destroying stuff that they're not making any more of. Right. And like in another way that helps control the cost of stuff, because those windshield frames, like on that truck right there, that if you can find a good one, it's going to be at least $400 without glass in it. And US.
Yeah. So 1,000.
Yeah. I do know that conversion rate. So, but the other thing that's really cool about it is that I think when I was younger, I felt like I wanted to save everything, and to save everything at least when I was younger, it felt like I need to save it all, bring it in. I need to own it all to save it all. Whereas I realized as I got older that if you give people the tools and the knowledge, and it turned out later, I found out the inspiration, like it's crazy how many people have reached out to me, like, watching your videos and watching your Instagram and watching you bring these things back to life. Like, I went out and I found one, and I'm working on it now. And but it's not like going out and finding like a running truck. Like, these people are going out and finding like junk, and bringing it back to life, which is keeping you in business, I guess.
Well, for sure, absolutely, because it's amazing where we sell it to, and people are so happy to find us.
So basically, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got to play devil's advocate here for a second. I can really appreciate, period correct restorations. I think I'm fascinated with that. But my background, where I come from, is how to make it faster, how to make it louder, how to make it, where I can hop in and drive it anywhere. Do you have anything here that you've got something maybe hidden under the hood that's not period correct, but it just makes it?
No, I did as a kid. I had a big block Dodge 65 pickup. I had my S100, had a small block 360 Dodge in it, and automatic, and we changed at 8 3/4 rear ends, so we were always changing the rear ends and go drag racing around town, or we actually drag raced a couple blocks over here. in
Don't
industrial
get yourself
park
in trouble here.
Yeah, well, no, we actually had a strip there.
Statute of limitations.
Yeah,
there you
well,
go.
that too. But no, there was a sanction by the city of Lethbridge.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
41st Street.
Oh, wow.
So
I thought you
the
lived here, man. No.
So the
No,
sad
I'm
part
from a
about that
town
is
a couple hours
our
out.
dealership was on the other end of 41st Street, and the guys would be out here drag racing Saturday afternoon, and I'm in the shop trying to sell
And
parts.
you're just hearing them go all
Yeah,
day.
whatever. So, to do a period correct restoration is tougher in my mind.
Yeah,
Definitely.
100%.
You look underneath the hood of that yellow Scout over here. You pop the hood up on that thing, and you get an original brochure out. Put them side by side.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Pretty damn close. I mean, I spend a lot of time underneath that hood. The right decals, the right wiring clips, the right whatever, and I'll take that against anybody's brochure any day and put them side by side and tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's pretty cool. So
But also,
I'll say that the only thing I daily drive my trucks. I still drive them. So I have a 49 KB2, which is all original 6 volts, everything. But to drive it around safely, I found a Ford 9-inch axle out of I think a late 60s Fairlane.
Okay.
That with the brakes, it's the same wheel pattern, and it's the exact same width at the end of the brakes, but the brakes are actually bigger. So I can change out to any Ford 9-inch.
Yeah.
So I'm not like screaming around trying to, go
Yeah.
faster than 45. But with my 50s trucks, I have converted them to 12 volts so that I have brighter lights, faster starts, more reliable. As far as hot rod, this is as close as I get, but the Coleman originally had a SD 240, which is inline 240.
Yeah.
And I have a Black Diamond 264 that the motor internals, it was a stuck motor, and I just decided I didn't want to deal with it. But so I got it all apart, and I'm building an SD 264, which is a motor that didn't technically exist.
calm down.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about it. I'm like,
well, you could get dual carbs for some of those intakes and whatever too.
There's a company that's making, I don't know how great they are, but they're making turbocharger kits for the SDs.
saw that. I can't turbocharge a farm truck.
Something
I just
else
can't.
that's fair.
my antique parts guys just said this morning is we have 12-volt conversion kits available today. We actually just got the stuff in that'll look like a generator,
Really, an alternator.
but it's an alternator.
That's awesome.
And
You gotta go check that out.
Wiring and stuff. So it's I haven't even had a look at it. I mean, he just told me this morning in our managers meeting. So there's a couple of trucks around here that you never know might end up with some of that stuff on there, because 6 volts a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you got to maintain it.
It's a lot of just more work. And you still want it to look the same, but if you could have the advantage of the 12 volt, spin over faster, and I've got the one green grain truck, that thing just,
Yeah.
and then it fires up. But it's just tiring some days.
Yeah.
It might be something we have to change over here.
So
Still looks the same.
You got to constantly clean grounds, and if the wires get a little bit of corrosion, then it's just
Don't put a small battery cable on. You got to have a battery cable that's
Yeah.
hot size. And
like there's a reason there's like 6 ground cables from the factory.
But sticking to your question, when we were at the college, George and I were shooting the bull there for a bit and telling him about my truck, because I got a 51 L130.
Is it L131 or L130?
131.
So it's got an extra spring in it.
Ooh. Look,
stop it.
I gotta buy a lottery
Hot rod
ticket.
over here, buddy.
It
at
used
that.
to have an extra spring in it.
Well, yeah. Oh man, it's that thing. It's got. I bought brakes. I came over here, and it's. I mean, it's in my town. Like George has a windshield for my truck in stock
Man.
in the city that I
Even the
live in.
green
Like
one.
that's crazy. Even the green one. But we were talking about that, and George is like, "Well, what are you gonna do with it?" And I was scared to tell you. I was scared to tell you because
He got a pretty cool reaction from me when he told me. I was like, "You're what?"
No, Eric got mad at me. So I got a Yukon chassis for it. And we talked about
Yeah,
that.
we did.
Like everyone in this around this table right now, I've talked to about
I think
this
we should
project.
just cut this table in
Yeah,
half.
yeah, actually.
That's a kid's table over there.
But maybe I kind of want to buy a cab and get one of the 220s working. I have 2 of them now, so I think that'd be cool. But I mean, it's also geared to pull down a house. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be howling down the highway in this thing. But when I told you my plan, you're just like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And that's what I really admire about you, along with
You're
your.
saying that's what you don't admire about me.
I mean,
I get it. That's fine.
I'm glad you're picking it up because I'm laying it on pretty thick here.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go eat poutine by myself.
Yeah,
after this.
exactly. but it's yourself, and I want to get Bill Landry on here too. One thing I learned from Bill Landry is when I was working at the auto parts store. Bill Landry's a auto parts. He's a performance parts salesperson, and he's
a Jeep nerd.
He's a Jeep nerd.
Big nerd.
So
Jeep
he's
nerd.
like-
it's funny because I know who you're talking about because I listened to your podcast with him
Yeah.
yesterday when I was driving up.
Oh, did you?
Because I wanted to know more about him. I was like, this is my kind of guy. This is a cool dude. But so I
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
pretty cool knowing who you're talking about.
So when I worked with Landry at CEP, there's this one time I shared this with my students yesterday. Actually, this kid came in. He had a Dodge Neon, and he wanted some like lowering springs for it. And I was like, that was my reaction. And I was like,
no, that's awesome. Like, Dodge Neon, like,
but I was like,
do whatever.
I was like, Bill, because I forget how old I was. I was like probably in my early 20s. I was like, Bill, why would someone want to do that? Am I right? And Bill goes, that's that guy's pride and joy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's true. And I never thought about that. I was just, because in this like automotive culture, there's a lot of that. Why the hell would you do that? That's not, blah, blah. And so, and you do that as well, George, as far as not the bad stuff. I was kind of timid to tell you about that. And then you're just like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, you could make a cool little hot rod out of that truck.
And I've done
And I
that
was like-
stuff in my younger days.
Yeah.
And, today, to me, it's more important to preserve history as it was.
Yeah.
And, some people say, well, that's crazy, but, I did all that stuff. I hot rodded a couple of trucks and had my fun with it. And I was a terror on the streets of Lethbridge. Every cop in town knew exactly who I was. And I had a brother-in-law who was a cop, too.
And you started the car club?
Street Wheelers Car Club. Yeah,
Founding
I was one of the
member?
Are
18
you kidding me?
Yeah,
One
you-
of the 18 guys that started the Street Wheelers Car Club.
I had
Bill
no
Landry and I
idea.
and Yvonne and Ross Spencer and there was Liz Herbers and there was a bunch of us that are still in the community today and still all get along, still have respect for each other, even though we're doing different things.
Yeah. That's the point.
When we did Ross Spencer's go away party here, I said, Fred Tolstorff, come here. It's 10 o'clock. I said, just stand here and look. Everybody's hanging around here. And, everybody's here. Here we are, 40 some odd years later. We all get along, and we all have respect for each other.
Yeah.
What the hell could a guy ask for more than that? Yeah, it was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah.
Here we are, a bunch of snot-nosed kids back in the day. They wouldn't even let us into the world of wheels because there were a bunch of goddamn hot rod and snotheads. We ended up running the goddamn world of wheels afterwards. So
That's
banner and
awesome.
stuff.
Local boys make good.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
So we did a lot of neat things, and a lot of us ended up in the automotive industry, in one way or another, either mechanics or Vanderwood's. Look at what he's doing today, and his kids, second generation come along, third generation come along, and some of the families and stuff. We did a Barrett Jackson watch party in here, in January, and man, we got third generation street wheelers. So it's pretty cool. And I'm not a member of the club anymore. I still like to hang out with the guys Street Machine Weekend and stuff, and we're always there in the show in the park. And I got my corner there. Get there
Sure, they
before
don't
everybody
mind
else
hanging
does.
out in here either.
Yeah.
And they love hanging out in
Yeah.
here. So it's good fun. And like Bill says, we should do this more often, George. Yeah, okay, well, okay, anytime you
Yeah.
want.
It's here, yeah.
Yeah. So, we still have a lot of fun together and enjoy each other's company.
I got a
That's-
question.
go ahead.
Before we get too much further. Does your love of internationals extend to the tractors?
Well, I was brought up by a truck zone manager that the truck group always thought the tractor, the ag side, cost the company money, and it was only the truck side that made any money. So I was brought up that the square bolt pig iron division was bad, and trucks were the only way to go.
Wow.
Now I did sell, when I was in the dual dealership before, my first truck, I did sell a couple of 3 front-end loader tractors, but that was pretty much the extent of it. Yeah, I was brought up that ag stuff is bad, trucks are good.
In a company that the second word is harvester.
Yes, that's right. Well, the name got changed. And
Yeah.
so,
I'm surprised Eric didn't walk out. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
man.
yeah, no, I pretty focused on the truck side of things.
Well, as we kind of wrap up, George, I just want to say thank you for, first of all, being that person who, not judgmental of, like you said, everyone's got their niche, everyone's got their interests, and that's why you're still friends with those guys that many years later. But also, you're not hoarding all this information for yourself.
Oh,
And that's what on
here to
behalf
share.
of everyone who's into Old International trucks, thank you
Absolutely.
for
Thank
putting it,
you.
because it could be completely opposite, right? It could be, well, I got all this stuff, I got all these. Nope, piss off, kid. You know what I mean? Thank you.
So when you come in here, it's take all the pictures you want, get in anything you want, get underneath anything you want. You ain't driving nothing. And you better be dumber coming through the door than when you leave.
Yeah.
If you don't learn something, shame on the rest of us and for not teaching you something. So, I mean, to me, this is a teachy, touchy feeling kind of place. And kids are welcome, wives are welcome. Well, I'm not going to bring my wife and kids. You bring your wife and kids, because if they're disappointed, I'll give them their money back.
Remember, yeah, exactly. I remember.
I've never charged anybody to get in here. So.
When I brought my kids here, at first I was like, oh, maybe, buddy, don't climb in here. Like, get in there. Yeah. Climb in that old truck. Because they'll never see it. This is where they're going to see it, right?
Who else is going to be dumb enough to let them in it?
Yeah,
Start.
that's true.
Okay, so I've been doing that for 20 some odd years. Show me where all the damage is. Show me where the damage is.
It's true.
Yeah.
Most people are very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
The
Plus,
odd
these things are
time,
built like tanks.
the odd time
Yeah.
you'll get somebody that's maybe a little needs a chat, but most time very respectful. So, which is pretty cool too.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. You're a very
Been
busy
fun.
man, and we really appreciate the opportunity. And
I have a couple things to do yet today. Yes.
there we go. And so, yeah, check out oldinternationaltrucks.com. Anywhere else. And we'll link to the Old International Trucks Instagram, and Shelby we'll connect on
Shelby's
that.
always got more stuff going on. We have a lot of information that needs to be added to it, so we just need more of her.
Yeah,
So we've just hired another fellow to help.
that's cool.
Very
Wayne,
cool. It's good fun.
thank you,
Awesome.
Wayne, for
Hey,
coming out.
appreciate you having me. This has been great. Like
Where
I said,
can people find you too?
Dick Industries Inc. across any platform.
And we'll link those in the show notes as well. And Eric, Bare Knuckle
Bare
Binder,
Knuckle Binder on Instagram and YouTube and in real life.
and in real life.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And OnlyFans. I mean,
Yeah, wait. That's a different podcast.
Yeah. Other
Right on.
platform.
Thank you so much, George.
You're welcome.
Really,
Thank you.
really appreciate
Thanks
your time.
for coming. I love sharing it. So
You can tell.
deal is.
Right on.
Awesome.
And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next
and
one.
watching.
And watching.
And watching, yes.
See, I did it again. I was talking
Yeah.
to the listeners. This is like the second time we've recorded a podcast on video, so I'm learning. Yeah,
Good fun.
thank you for.
Gotta do more of it.
Yeah, I will. All right,
All right, let's go get food.
let's do it.